He just walks up to him and says, "What up, blood?" On his chest.
Yeah,
On his
he's got,
chest,
like,
he has a picture of a woman, a sultry-looking young woman. He goes, "What up, blood? You want to check out some of these space titties?"
Oh my god, that right there tells you everything you need to know about this movie.
Today's movie that we're going to talk about is a little flick called Space Pirate, or I'm sorry, Space Pirates, The Ice Pirates.
Yes.
Came out in 1984. I remember the movie, but I don't remember shit about it. I remember scenes, I remember things that happened in it, but I don't remember anything about the story. And there's probably a reason for that. I know what that is now, but I'm going to let Triv give us a little bit of, give you guys just a few stats and background on the movie, who's in it when it came out, etc., etc.
All right. Well, the Ice Pirates stars Robert Ulrich, Mary Crosby, Angelica Houston. It was Ron Perlman and Mary Crosby's second movie. John Carradine, who was the father of David Carradine, starred in this, but he did a whole lot of like ultra low budget and kind of 50s B movies type stuff. As far as trivia goes, this started out as it was intended to be a serious sci-fi movie with a $20 million budget. MGM looked at it and decided to slash the budget to $8 million, so it had to be completely rewritten as a comedy. And there's bits of this you can look at and you can see where it was trying to be serious, but then it just lost it and it, had a robot shit itself, basically. There was a television screen that featured Rollerball from 1976. They had sets from Logan's Run, so there was a lot of reused elements. The storyline itself is kind of based off of Jason and the Argonauts. Gene Roddenberry jokingly said, and he was the creator of Star Trek, he jokingly said that Ice Pirates was singularly responsible for bringing back the death penalty to California.
Oh, shit.
Jokingly, or supposedly, in giant quotes.
Well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. This movie is so good that it brought the death penalty back. Take that as you will. But I know that Nick, unfortunately, I don't. Have you seen this movie, Nick? Because Nick was unable to watch it with us, so he's gonna kind of be a from the outside looking in. But have you ever seen Ice Pirates, Nick? Well, you're in for something special here, buddy.
I'm just a casual observer.
Dude, we should make sure to give him a space herpy.
We're gonna get there. Yeah, that's a thing. We're gonna talk about it anyway. The movie basically is 1984, right? 1980s, mid 80s camp through and through. It's a super low budget, not super low, but it's a low budget. And it's about pirates in space that we're in a world or a universe where ice is the most valuable, water is the most valuable commodity. They transport this water in ice form. I guess they don't really ever explain that. That's what it appears. They're ice pirates, though. I'm going to play the trailer so our viewers can see what this movie's about. I mean, well, so you can see the movie that we watched. Because this is something. Here you go. Here's Ice Pirates, the trailer from 1984.
At last, the space comedy you didn't know you were waiting to see. The Ice Pirates. In the far distant future, in a galaxy where those in the know don't go, real estate is cheap, and they've got great sushi. But there's no water.
You got any water?
It is a time when desperate men will swing from the chandeliers just to get a drink.
Just take a look at that.
Good men like Jason, space pirate and explorer of the cosmos. His chief engineer and fellow rogue Roscoe.
Oh, here, quit that.
And the beautiful Princess Karina. One tiny band who must bust their buns, battling the masters of all the water in the galaxy. The evil Mithradoids, famous for not being nice.
Killing you would be too easy. I have something better in mind.
The Ice Pirates.
Let boy!
See startling special effects. See depravity in zero gravity. See glamour girls from another galaxy. See kung fu robots. And delight in the mysteries of the seventh world. The one place in the universe to get a decent glass of water.
Don't do that.
Insist. How's it going? Oh, it's going great. How's it going with you?
The Ice Pirates. A totally spaced adventure.
That was The Ice Pirates. I'm sorry. I've always called it Ice Pirates, but apparently it's called The Ice Pirates. Not to be confused with the Ice Pirates, but
Or Pirates of Ice.
yeah, man. So this movie, the basic storyline here is we got these pirates, water pirates. They're space pirates. Not to be confused with the full motion video game Space Pirates. But these pirates, they, for some reason, you got to understand, some of the stuff I'm going to say is going to seem vague. I'm not being vague. It's just the movie moves. And I think Triv and I said, when we finished watching it, I was like, this movie should be subtitled The Ice Pirates, Shit Happens. Because there's just always shit happening on the screen, and you don't even fully know why. It's just stuff. Things happen. Random ass shit happens left and right. We're going to definitely get to that. But our pirates, our rogue band of pirates, they attach themselves to this ship that's going by in space because I guess there's water on it or whatever. They go on with their robots and their
Which they have several.
Yeah, they have several, and they they go to Stillwater. This is the Templar. The Mirtha. What was the name? Mirtha. Anyway, they go over to Mirtha, and this Mirtha ship, and Mirtha is inhabited by Templars, by the way, and we'll get to that in a minute. I'm gonna just try and let me give you the basic story. Templars run Mirtha, which is where all the water in this known universe is. They run the place. They run the universe with Iron Fist. We have all the water if you want any. Water brings life. Yeah. They're pirates. They steal water. They get on here, they find a princess in suspended animation. They try and kidnap her. They get caught. She breaks them out for some reason, which we find that she's trying to find her long-lost father, who went off to find this place called the Seventh World. The Seventh World is a world of water, and he disappeared, never came back. She wants these pirates to take her to find her father, and she has a lead on another planet. They eventually, that's really all it is. The Templars and their main Templar guy are following after them, and it's really just them hotspotting to like different, or jumping to different places to get clues until they find this wormhole-esque time funky thing that takes them to the Seventh World, which is more or less Earth, it looks like, to find her.
Earth.
Yeah, okay, it is Earth, to find her father or find this water. So that's our story. Basically, that's the story. Ice Pirates taking Princess to Water World.
Why didn't I watch this with you guys last night?
It's okay. You know what this reminds me of? You know, like how they say, like they'll pull up a skeleton of a dinosaur, and they have an idea of what the dinosaur looks like, but by and large, they'll compare. Like a lot of people today will compare the skeletons of modern animals to the way that they look versus the way that you would think they would look based on the skeletal structure. And you'd think the story would be a certain way just because of the way that it is, but it's just a fucking mess, and there's pieces everywhere, and it ends up looking like a platypus.
Yes, it's a fucking mess. It is. The story of this movie is a fucking mess, but there's something about it. It's so out there, man. It is so out there that you can't help but just... It's like a train wreck. you're like, what is going on here? But you can't pull away. So we from the get-go, I mean, as they're entering this ship, they attach themselves to it all like Star Wars like, and cut a hole in the hull and like can't get it open, and the movie is laced with like throughout with like goofy ass comedy. And the second in command, second mate or whatever he is, the guy who looks like who did I say he looked like?
Gregory Hines.
Yeah, he looks kind of like Gregory Hines. It's not Gregory Hines, but he looks like him. He goes running into the wall and bursts through it and ends up in the bathroom of this ship, where we have this alien creature taking a shit with like these super skinny fucking legs, and you're like, that's a thing. Whatever's happening there.
He's got chicken legs and a scrotum face.
Yeah, he definitely does. But and he's just sitting there watching. He's reading a magazine and everything. He's in full on alien makeup. This big vagina, lumpy head, and little skinny legs, and it goes with it. They like bust in and they're like, oh, excuse us. It's never explained. I mean, I guess it does need to be. You walk in and the guy's on the shitter, but like just shit like that. And that's that's not even the most random thing in this movie. It gets so much more random beyond that. And we can't focus on every single random thing that happens.
Supposed to be this bad?
It's meant to be this funny, yeah. So initially it was supposed to be when they first started pitching it and working on scripting, it had a $20 million budget through MGM, but then
shit.
It got slashed to $8 million, and so it had to be rewritten as a comedy. And there are places like there is one set of scenes that's kind of set in a cantina. There's so much going on, and it does honestly feel like it could have been something more seriously sci-fi. So whether those sets were already built, or it just happened to be something that they were like, well, we put all our money into this because reasons. But yeah, otherwise it is definitely meant to be comedy.
Yeah, and it's a fucking mess, but it's a beautiful mess. It's really fucking hard to talk about this movie because it's so fucking random. Like, they burst into this bathroom and there's this like twig man there, and then they like knock him out. But before that, they're just walking by like, excuse us. And you're just like, what? Oh, okay. And it doesn't ever explain this stuff. It just happens, and it's in the background. It's, I guess, comedy. They walk by, they go down the hall, and they've got these fucked up robots with them they're always malfunctioning and stuff and doing dumbass shit. And then they go to this door, and like some 18th century maid comes out. She's got like the white cap with the... It makes they're in space in the future.
She would fit as like a character in Peter Pan. Like you would expect that level of character. And then you've got the Templars that are straight up medieval. They've got, like Jacob was talking about last night, they have chainmail, they have like old school swords, like the whole 9 yards. I guess they probably have like the guns that might make them slightly futuristic, but even that, it's like Jake said, we're going to talk a lot about the costumes, and honestly, the variety of costumes is just so weird. Like, you don't expect there to be 100% where everything kind of matches together across the board, because in theory you're dealing with multiple cultures, but there is absolutely nothing that connects any of it.
Here you're dealing with multiple fucking timelines. Okay, so check it out. This is the Templars. They're in space and they're dressed like fucking... They've got chainmail and everything on, and you're like, what? Why are these people in space? They look like they're from like a Kingdom of Heaven or something, but no, and they just roll with it. They never say anything about it. They've also got laser guns and stuff like that, but these guys are carrying around like medieval swords, and they're running the ship. They're flying the ship and everything. But the costumes are such a fucking mix. I think I mentioned that it seems like they went to Party City and just bought everything that was left after Halloween and just said, let's make some costumes out of this. I don't know how. We just got to make some fucking costumes out of this. And they just threw shit together with fucking hot glue. And some of the costumes actually don't look that bad. Like they work. Like the general aesthetic of the movie is like what you think like the Space Pirates would be, is something like here you're seeing on screen now. Like you've got this is by the way, that's Angelica Houston of all people in this movie.
He's in the Ice Pirates? Man, I really have to watch
That's
this
her
movie.
right there. She's in Ice Pirates, and this is that kind of like look they've got going on. Besides this Don Juan looking mofo in the background, like it works. It works, you know. I'm cool with it. But then you've got like these 1980s kind of like people are wearing like there's big shoulder pads throughout this whole thing, like multi shoulder pads. One guy has like 4 shoulder pads on each shoulder, but they're like out to here. It is just the costume department was out of control in this movie. But so they get on the ship and they even go up to, they find the princess, and the one guy, he starts like, she's in like cryo sleep, and he opens it up and he starts trying to look at her boobs. And then the Gregory Hines light guy walks up and he's like, "Hey man, come on. We talked about this. You said you weren't going to do this." I was like, "Said you weren't going to do what? Sexually assault an unconscious woman? How many times has this happened?" And then he even said, he's like, "Oh man," and he goes, "What happened to the rape and pillage part of our job?" And he walks off. I'm like, this is our hero, ladies and gentlemen. Where's the raping and pillaging?
There's some moments that you just, it's one of those things where like you can, with so many of these movies, like I remember on old Warner Brothers, there was always a thing of, you know, this is from a different time, a different place. You know, we can learn from the stuff that came previously and not repeat it. But yeah, some of the stuff like that, I suppose it was dialogue that, you know, oh, well, hey, pirates, okay, they rape and pillage, let's do it, or something like that. Who knows? But oof.
Yeah, I maybe, but but that once again, this is not even the most random parts of the movie.
No.
The movie continues on. They finally take this chick with them because, well, they're trying to kidnap her. They get caught, like I said. So okay, they get caught by the bad guys. They're in this jail. They go to that planet. I guess they're on the Mirtha planet with water because that's where the Templars are from.
Just a giant warehouse, really.
Yeah, it's their jail. They're like crammed in these pens with other people that are prisoners, and we suddenly get like the fucking Chi Rodriguez guy who shows up. He's like got like everybody else is dressed in these crazy out there ways. This one guy is dressed like some militant, like revolutionary from 1967, and he's sitting there going, fight the power, just say," and all this stuff. And I'm like, what era did this guy come from? But anyway, so then all of a sudden, we'll skip forward a little bit. Our 2 main characters, these 2 guys, are on a conveyor belt, and they're tied down, and there's a bunch of other people in this conveyor belt. They're rolling down this conveyor belt. And then these people start walking up, and they're like, like these got these giant shaving cream things, putting it on their face, and everywhere else, ripping their clothes off with hedge clippers that aren't even on. Like these people just walk by with these hedge clippers, and they're like talking like they're at work, and they're just moving them, going. They're not even on. They're just, and then they pull the guy's clothes off. I was sitting there like, what is he doing with those hedge? It's just hedge, like a Black & Decker hedge clippers. And he's like, and he takes the guy's clothes off, and then he like, fucking. They're sitting there talking to the people as they pass by on this conveyor belt, and like these women come up.
Pleasant conversation.
Yeah, and they're like, "Hey, ladies," he's tied down, and he's like, "Hey, ladies, you want to let me out of here? Maybe we can go have a party." And they're like, "Oh no, I don't think he'll be up to it," and all this, and they're shaving down below and everything. Like, of course, like they go to shave the one guy, and it's these 2 women, and then this old man walks up to shave the other guy. He's got a straight razor in the fucking future, and he's got shaving cream all over him, and he's like shaking with Parkinson's, and he's coming to shake me. He's like, and it's like, okay. And then of course, because it's the 80s, when they go to shave his nether regions, well, you'll know why in a minute. There's another person down here just doing that with a straight razor as well, and of course it's a clearly 1980s gay guy, and he's sitting there like, ooh, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on in this movie? I mean,
that's nothing compared to the build up to, like, that is just build up to what's next.
So they're going down this conveyor belt. They shave, you know, down under, and they shave their faces and all this, and everybody's been real nice. And as they go down this conveyor belt, suddenly these jaws of death come down that are probably around that big, and you saw them in the trailer, and they start their teeth, these teeth, metal jaws, and they start going chonk, chonk, chonk in between their legs. essentially what this conveyor belt is doing is turning these, not essentially, it is turning them, it's making them eunuchs.
Yep.
Which, for those of you that don't know, because when I saw this when I was a kid, I remember them talking about that, and I looked at my mom and I said, what's that? That is a man, which we're going to get to that too, but it's a man who's been castrated. So they shave them all up, they castrate them, they cut their fucking balls off with this brutal-looking machine, and as we'll see in a moment, they bleach what hair they have, and they become eunuchs, and they do something to their brains too, they said, but anyway, and they become servants.
Basically lobotomize them, I think, basically.
Yeah,
That's what I got from it.
They say that to make them servants, even though they have fucking robots everywhere. But anyway, so they go and they're like, it's all comedy, and they make it through the thing, but it didn't chomp their balls off, thankfully for them. And the princess shows up, and she's like, just act like it did, or you're gonna lose it for real. So she's gonna spring these guys, or she lets them keep their nuts, and.
Well, that was kind of her.
Yeah, right. Good on her. So then the next scene we see is these guys being fitted. It's in like a fitting room with quite a few people that apparently have just been deballed. They're getting dressed in their suits, which are this is them. This is the eunuchs, by the way. This is what they look like. And we had these characters come to like inspect them, to buy. It's the princess, her little, I guess her mother, somebody who she's with, to get new service. It's kind of like that scene from Star Wars when Luke and Uncle Owen are getting the droids. It's almost exactly like that. It's very much that, but they're getting eunuchs. And they go to whenever they talk, the Gregory Hines looking character, I keep calling him that, I don't know what his name is, but the main character, Roscoe, okay. Whenever they talk, these guys, they talk like this right here. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Because they're not supposed to have balls. Every time they talk like this. It's just, oh my god, it's hilarious. But so the princess knows, she's in on it, and she lets them know. But what you will notice in the scene, and I'll put the picture up there again, and you can see it a little bit here, is right behind our main character here. There's a woman. There's a woman behind him. How is a woman a eunuch? I don't know how that works. I mean, my knowledge of eunuchs is not as thorough as some, I guess. But how the fuck is a woman a eunuch? Triv, maybe you can help me out here.
You see, when a big chompy robot machine and a woman love each other very, very much, they have a moment where it inserts itself inside and then chomp, 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 and
that somehow seems worse. There's a couple of scenes that we see with these eunuch characters, and there's female eunuchs. I don't know if that was like a continuity thing, or they meant for a woman to be there. Maybe you're not supposed to know it's a woman. I mean, she's got boobs, and it's clearly a woman. But yeah, there's female eunuchs
no
too.
Bulge.
Yeah, it's a female unit. Well, there's not much of a bulge on them either because chaka chaka. But
yeah.
There's a female eunuchs in this. How that works, I don't know. One of those random things it just doesn't explain. Skipping forward a bit, they go to a club, by the way, where we get some epic costumes, and you have to understand. I know this sounds really random, everything I'm saying, because it is. Because that's how the movie. I can't explain. I can only tell you what I saw, and this woman just walks up to the main character here. He's in his eunuch suit, and he's walking around with drinks. And she walks up and takes a drink and takes something and puts it on her head, and like 1980s electricity starts going through her. And she's like, oh. And she throws it to him on his tray and says, you've got to try it. And then she just floats away. Just floats the fuck away. She just goes up, and there's people up on the ceiling, like, just floating around. But there's people on the dance floor and everything just walking around like normal. I mean, as normal as you can be in this movie. She just floats the fuck away, and you're like, they never mention it. They don't say why. It shows them. There's just people floating up there in the middle of this room, and you're like, what the fuck is going on, man? What the hell? But from there, they break out, and the princess goes with them. They get a ship, or their ship, I'm not sure. They get a ship, and they take off into the cosmos. She tells them, hey, you're gonna take me to my dad, or I'm gonna kill you, or do this or that or the other. They form a pact, and she says, I'll give you some of the water from the booty. And our fearless leader says, okay, sure, yeah, we'll do that. And they go off to go on their trek to different places. And from here, really, there's not, like, story-wise, it's just them going from place to place to find clues until they get to the time place, which we'll jump there in a minute. But I do want to let Triv talk some as well and tell us about some of the random-ass shit we come across.
Well, the one thing you missed, which I think you would hate me if I didn't bring up, was the pimp bot.
Oh my God, yes. Yes, I'm so happy you brought that up. This happens right before they escape the planet that they're on. And there is a bot, it's just like this trash can looking cheap ass Star Wars wannabe robot. They leave this place right before their big getaway. They leave this club where people are floating around and all this, and they're just about to have their big breakaway. And there's a character that's with them who shows up. You think he's going to be a main character. I guess he does show up on the ship later on. But they walk out of this club into the street. And off of this, like, Johnny Cab looking Total Recall thing comes this black robot. And he's got, like, digital smiley face and stuff. And it walks up. And there's all this other shit going on, too. You're just like, what am I focusing on? I don't know. And in the middle of all this escape scene, he just walks up to him and says, "What up, blood?" On his chest.
Yeah,
on his chest,
like
he has a picture of a woman. A sultry-looking young woman. He goes, "What up, blood? You want to check out some of these space titties?"
Oh my God, that right there tells you everything you need to know about this movie. Just that moment right there.
Hey, Jack! Hey, Bloods! Y'all want to pump some kitties? Yeah. Finest kitties on Mithra. Let's book, Blood. This be my bad chariot.
The movie had me at that point, and it doubles down. They're in the middle of an escape. And by the way, when this happens, and just all of a sudden, this robot walks up and goes full on, like, stereotypical pimp, 1980s pimp, and he's literally and I am not paraphrasing. He says these things, and he keeps on going on and on about, "Get some of these space titties, blood. Come on, blood." And the one of the guys who's escaping with them is like, "Hey, yeah, okay. Will you take this gold chain?" He's like, "Yeah, for sure, baby. Come on over here. I'll introduce you to these space titties." He keeps on with his space titties and "what up, blood" and all this, and he takes him to his car so this guy can get some space titties. It's good times.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But see, the beauty of this movie and what it does throughout, something that out there, fucking random, in the middle of an escape scene. Literally, they're working into a motorcycle car chase at this point. This happens, and the movie stops just to say, "Let's do this," and you're like, "What? Okay," it's so out there you can't help but just watch and be like, "What?" And it doubles down on it. It does it, and then the movie continues. It does not explain anything. It doesn't even call attention to. I mean, it focuses on it, but it doesn't even mention it. It just moves the fuck on. And like the other characters that are with this guy, they're like, "Oh well." They just go, "That's him being him,"
And they just met this guy too, because he was also up to be a eunuch. Like, he was in the same cage as them, so they all were, so they literally didn't know this guy. But it's like, look at this scamp. He's such an incorrigible rogue and whatever else.
But he shows up on their ship later on, doesn't he?
Yeah, he goes with them.
Yeah,
I think
somehow.
I think he probably gets taken. I don't remember 100% like how he ends up back at the ship, but they basically they wait for him. But it's not really. He leaves the camera. You kind of don't see him again. Maybe he made a pact with the pimp guy, and maybe they went into business together.
He gets his space titties, and then he shows up on the ship. So yeah, and it never explains. He just walks on later on. They're in space. They've escaped. Big high speed chase, and he just walks in. He's like, "Hey guys," and they're like, "Hey, how are them space titties? What up,
He
blood?"
had a really powerful load.
You know,
Shot him into orbit.
For a movie that's directed by the director of Mac and Me and Mannequin on the Move, this makes a whole lot of sense now.
Is that who directed it? Oh my gosh,
Yes.
that makes Mac and Me. Oof. Mannequin on the Move though. Mannequin 2 on the Move. It's my shit. Yes, it does make more sense. No, but those are well constructed movies compared to this. This thing is a fucking mess, but it is like that perfect storm of just disaster that just works. Something about it just happens. If you changed just a fraction of anything in this movie, it would all fall apart. It's like a house of cards, but it just happens to work. It's teetering on the edge at all times, but something about it, you're just like, I can't stop watching this. But anyway, from there, I know I had asked Triv, and you reminded me about the Space Pimp, which we had to talk about Space Pimp. But
Absolutely.
so from there, okay, they've escaped this planet. He got his space titties from Blood, got his space titties, and he's back on the ship somehow. They're off into the cosmos. Where do we go from here? Where do we? Give us a little rundown there.
I'm trying to think. So there was the robot, there was another trash can robot that's top opened up, and I think it was actually a trash can, but it had like a tongue inside that constantly go back and forth, and it made several suggestive like advances on several crew people. So that's to be aware of. And oh my god, it was so weird. They also
the robot that they said was the trash robot, but it was like he would like claptrap his mouth open and his tongue was just going.
Yep, literally that. The tongue went back and forth just like that, and it's
every woman's dream robot.
So they end up going to this planet to meet up with this guy called Lanky Nibs, and
the names too.
Oh god,
his character's name is Lanky Nibs, and they say that with a straight fucking face. That sounds like something. I think I'd say that it sounds like something Encino Man would have said after Big Gazunga's Lanky Nibs. It's like a Polly Shoreline or something. Radmobile, Lanky Nibs, buddy.
So they go to this really well-constructed cantina where Angelica Houston shows off her her fencing prowess, and she ends up taking off a guy's head in a very, very realistic way. Our main character, Robert Ulrich, actually gets hit on by a lizard lady who ends up taking them out to the middle of the desert, and that proceeds to have a Mad Max knockdown drag out where they go to see this guy that's sitting in a wheelchair but doesn't actually need a wheelchair, and for some reason he has mules and pigs. And then there's a robot that has like a butler like bow tie on and
By
stuff.
the way, not to interrupt,
No, please do.
This is Frog Lady. this and what's cut off here is her friggin' enormous, just glorious bosom that they reference a few times. That is not green, by the way. Apparently,
nope.
she ain't got green space titties. But this is her.
Unfortunately.
But when she talks, she talks like this all the time. Everything she does is like this. And and she's got a crush on him.
So this butler robot gets like run over, but then he gets up and later he's fine despite being completely crushed. Then the guy that they go out there to see, I think that's Lanky Nibs, I think.
It was. And the robot, the butler robot has a giant white bow tie on the whole time.
It's pretty good.
Random shit that
and it's massive.
There.
It's like clown bow tie.
Mm-hmm.
It's and he kind of shows up. I think he's with them throughout. I think him and the nanny character might actually have like a side thing going on because they're always holding hands and staring lovingly into each other's eyes.
Yeah, he's got like attachments or something, and she loves it.
Oh yeah, chicken bow. But yeah, they have a sad moment with this Lanky Nibs guy as he lays dying for some reason. And then everything explodes, and then they leave that, and they get back into space.
Wait,
and they end up...
you missed the Radmobile that attacked them. That looks it looks like that fucking thing from Idiocracy with the big dildo on the front of it, that monster truck. Nick probably knows what I'm talking about. I can't remember what they call it, but it has it has like a big skull on it. It's this right here. This attacks them. This skull part is extended outwards, and all I could think was Idiocracy when that thing came out. Doom, doom, doom. It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
And it's a weird vehicle. It's like a pirate ship / like Mad Max Deathmobile / dildo thing.
I just want to point out to everyone once again. I just want to say, reference this. Yes, this sounds. I know we're being random as hell and all over the place. We're not. We're following the story, like to the T. It's just that fucking out there, and we have glossed over some things, people.
Yes, and we're coming to other things that are just total highlights.
Mm-hmm.
So they get back on the ship. Ron Perlman, this is his second movie, and earlier in the movie he lost his hand, but somehow he's got his fake hand, and they go to shake and it comes off and his other hand comes out, and it's like, oh, he grew back his hand. So then he's in the kitchen trying to like make lunch, and there's all these random hands that are sticking out of the wall, and they applaud him at one point for his culinary expertise.
Okay, so just to backtrack just a little bit to work up to this scene, we get introduced to another thing, just another random thing that the movie decides to stop and focus on for a moment, as our two heroes, our captain and his second mate or whatever, are sitting on, Michael Knight and Gregory Hines Light are sitting here on the ship, the bridge of their ship. There's something in the floor, it looks like a big rock, or probably about that big. It's an egg, apparently, and it hatches, and something comes out of it. And it attacks one of them. They don't know it. The Gregory Hines looking character, he's asleep, and it gets on him, and he's like, what was that? And then they start looking for this thing. They find the egg, and they're like, what is this thing? And you don't get a good look at it at this point. But they're like, what is it? And they go look at the ship's manifest that is in a closet that I think corpses fall out of, and they just shove them back in there. like skeleton corpses. They're like, oh, and put it back in and just go to read the manifest. Once again, don't even say anything about it. It is a creature that can wreak havoc on an area. It's like a little worm-like creature, and it opens its head, and it has a face. It's kind of disturbing, and it runs around and wreaks havoc throughout the film randomly here or there. And any other time they just don't talk about it and forgot about it. And it is called, literally, the movie names it this. It is its official name, a space harpy. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a space harpy. This thing runs around, slithers around the ship, and just randomly. And this is what is inside of the hunk of meat that Ron Perlman's character throws up on the table, and it bursts out and just goes ballistic in the room and then gets away. And that's what it does. It just shows up every now and then, and people are like, space herpes.
They have a Benny Hill style chase scene for
sped
a
up
bit.
and everything.
Yep, exactly.
And it does shit. It runs around. It makes people lose their minds for a few minutes and then disappears, and they're like, on to the next thing. And then later on it'll happen again. This happens a few times throughout the film. They're like children. As soon as they can't see it, it doesn't exist. It just goes away, and they move on with the plot of the movie. But so yeah, the space herpy is here, and he is ready and raring to go, and that's what he does. So from there, we go to it. We leave Lanky Nips or whatever his name was, and they figure out that they get coordinates to this wormhole, for lack of a better word, of where the princess's dad went. And we're glossing over some things, yes, but they go to this wormhole and jump through it so that they can get to the water world. Seventh world, seventh planet. Now, right before they do that, they're cruising along. They're on their way there. Our captain and the princess decide, hey, you know what? Now's a good time to fuck. So they get together, and he comes in his best pirate outfit. He's gone full pirate now. And so is Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman suddenly, they just walk in. He's been wearing this pirate garb that I showed a little while ago to everybody. Just suddenly they come on the ship at one point, and he's got like the traditional pirates, like white and red striped shirt and like pirate boots and leggings and all that. And you're just like, why? Suddenly he's just dressed this way? Like he's like deck swabbing or swabbing the deck or something. What? You're on a fucking spaceship. What happened? But then right after that, our main character just busts up into the room wearing like this white puffy shirt that's cut all the way down to his navel, and he's got the pirate boots and a rapier sword and everything. And at this point, you're just like, whatever. You just run with it. Speaking of rapier, he walks into the room, and they go to, get it on, because apparently now she's hot and ready to go. But they decide that, hey, let's go into this 40X theater that we have in our room here, and they insert a program before he inserts his program. And they go into this little room that essentially just has this big screen right behind it and a place to lay down, and they start getting it on. But in this theater that they're in, this little theater, like, it has like water and like all this stuff going on in the back. It's random as fuck. Wind, but wind is blowing them when it rains. Like, they're covered in water and rain, and like they're getting it on. It looks like the cover of a fucking trashy romance novel. So then that happens, and they move on. They get to the wormhole thing. They go into it. The bad guys are on their tail, so they're both in the wormhole. Now, as they're on this wormhole, the bad guys start to board their ship. Now, the thing about this wormhole is it distorts time. It starts making time randomly ramp up and move forward. I think at one point they were like, 30 seconds is like 1 day, or stuff like that, or I don't know. Don't even try.
30 years ahead at one point, yeah.
Yeah, maybe even more than that. I don't know. Time is moving forward, but when it moves forward, they'll be fighting and stuff, and then all they did was like shoot scenes, and Benny Hill fast forward them randomly. Like, it's almost like Zack Snyder speed ramping, but nowhere near as good looking. They'll just be walking normal, and they're just real fast. It's great, and they grow beards as they're doing this big battle with the bad guys. The princess, like, one of the characters that we didn't get to, this guy who his head can come off of his body. We didn't talk about that guy, but now his head's on a robot. He's a human being, I think. He says, in the middle of the battle, they're having a big fucking battle on this ship. And he comes up, he's like, Captain, and he just walks away as this battle's happening, and he's like, yeah, what's up, man? The princess would like to see you. He's like, well, I'm a little busy. And he's like, I think you should go see her now. He's like, hey, you guys got this? All right, I'll be back. Pretty much just like that. He walks off, and she's had a baby. She got pregnant. And in the time dilation, she not only got pregnant, because at one point she does say, oh, I'm not feeling very well, a few minutes earlier. She went through an entire pregnancy and had a baby in like 5 minutes. And she's holding it, and she's like, look, here's your son. And he's like, no. Or he's like,
and then he gets pissed on.
Yeah, the baby pees on him. This is all in the middle of a battle. And he goes, sorry about that. And he walks off. And at one point, the kid shows up again, but it's like 10, and it's running around with a toy sword going, just in the background. There's, like, as the movie ramps up, it's like they just start throwing so much shit at you. It's like, I can't comprehend it all. There's so much stuff going on. It's just random, time forward, time slow down, beards, giant afros, and it's overload. And
the wigs get bigger and bigger and bigger the further into the future they get.
Yes, as they're going. And our two main, the captain and his second mate, at one point, they go through this fight and everything. They're going through this time dilation thing. And just to give you an idea where they end up, because the princess shows up, she's got hair like that's going down the hall, and they're in this big room. The robots and the bad guys are on them, and our main character's got real long hair. He's really old. I think at this point he's played by somebody else. But the Gregory Hines-esque character I was telling you about, of course, he's the black guy, so he slowly grows a bigger and bigger afro, and by the end of this time dilation, he looks like this. Now, up to this point, the growth of his afro, which he did not have an afro originally, by the way, but the growth of his hair is
a little normal.
Normal-ish. At one point, it gets a little big, but then all of a sudden, it just shows him on screen. He walks on screen like this, and they act like nothing. Just everything's normal here.
It got really humid really quick. Oh, God.
And then suddenly, like, the big bad guy shows up, and he's old as fuck, too. Everybody's old as shit. And then our main character who's been our main character this whole time, suddenly swings on screen super young and starts like beating the bad guys. And it's the son, but he's fully grown at like 35 years old now. And he's like, "Hello, father!" But it's played by the same guy, Ulrich. And then suddenly, as he like hugs them and all this, and they're all like old as fuck about to die, it starts flashing back to earlier. Just, you don't know why. You're like, what is happening? And then it just goes back. And it's like, and they go, "Oh, it brought us back to right before we entered the wormhole." But they're on the other side of it. So all that was for fuck all nothing, I don't know. And the bad guys are gone at this point, I think. Or I think it said something about they were just like 2 degrees off, and they're just off into nothingness now. But they made it through. Yep. Good for them. And they made it to the water world. Yeah, they went through that little ordeal, but now they're back to normal. And they find the water world, a.k.a. Earth. And they all kind of cheer and do their freeze frame for the end of the movie. They go, "Yay!" And it like freezes, and then credits roll over it because it ends like a fucking 80s sitcom with music and the freeze frame, and then it cycles through just pictures of people from the movie.
Yep. It's all just a dream.
Oh, and the space herpes. You may be asking, what happened to the space herpes?
The most important question,
it shows
really.
up like 4 times throughout the movie and wreaks havoc. You're thinking this is going to be a big end. No! He's walking down the hall during this big fight scene, and one of the robots stepped on it. That's it! It just stepped on it. One of the robots just randomly, accidentally stepped on it. It's not even a big scene. He's just like, he's running through. Nothing about the space herpes going on, and he looks down, and it's just, it has stepped on it. And he goes, "Oh." And he walks off. I'm like, you said, okay. I am nothing. There's a part in the middle of all that random ass shit that a robot just in the middle of all, like, they're fighting and going on, and it just goes, "Oh," and like shits literally out of its ass. It shits, I guess, some lubricant, oil, nuts and bolts and washers just fly out of its ass, and the camera's all up on it. This robot's not even in the scene so much. It's just these 2 guys talking, and next to him, and they go, and you hear the robot goes, like zooms in on his ass as it shits all this out, and then goes on with the conversation. No explanation, no nothing. It just happens.
Go on, go!
I feel like they bring up the robot stuff when they're absolutely out of ideas. They're like, funny robot scene, go now! Because there's another robot that for some reason, like, he's got this bolt, and it's kind of in an awkward position in the front. He just like pulls it out, and then all of a sudden he falls apart.
Yeah, and what she's saying, there's no build up to that. It's just 2 people having a talk, and then right there in between them, kind of in the background, this robot's sitting there going, this robot is not a focus of the scene, and he just has a bolt. And I think maybe somebody says something about robots, and it just goes, "Foom," and just falls the fuck apart. And then they go, "Huh," and walk off. Shit like this, that is the entire movie. The whole fucking movie. That's why I said this is The Ice Pirates. Shit happens, because that's exactly what it is. Just random shit throughout the entire movie, and it's never really acknowledged. It shows it, but nobody ever goes, "What the fuck?" Except for the viewer. You will say "what the fuck" more times in this movie than any other movie. And this was brought to us by the glorious Trivial Theater.
I try. Oh god, it is a fun movie, there's no doubt. It's definitely, if you can do group watch, or if you can do it, I mean, at least have a drink, because just to
lots of drinks,
put your head around what the hell is going on, you gotta have something. Otherwise you're gonna sit there and just like hand on the side of your face and question every single life decision you've ever made.
All of them. I am now. I'm questioning everything. My question is, Nick's been pretty silent because, like I said, he didn't have an opportunity to watch this movie. But Nick, tell us, just based on what you heard from us, what does this seem? I mean, is this the next thing? Is this on your watch list now? Is this something you're just like, I've got to see this movie? What did you think about what we told you and what you've seen?
I mean, it's something. That was quite a synopsis of a movie that may or may not make. I don't even know what to think.
It does not make sense.
There going,
no, not even.
Do not try and make sense of it. You will go insane.
No. Yes.
This is definitely a Trivial Theater movie. I can tell you that.
Very much so. Very much so. It's so fucking out there that you're probably like, I don't think I could put it into words. I did the best I could. But this is the
You
kind of
did well.
movie
I'm
because
proud of you.
I think a lot of people, like me, I had forgotten about that. I remembered it, but I remember seeing it when I was a kid a lot. It was in my house a lot. It's one of those movies I just hadn't seen in decades at this point, and it's definitely one of those movies that's forgotten by a lot of people. So I think Triv is totally right. When it comes to watching this movie, don't watch it alone. Don't watch it alone. It's kind of like that movie The Signal. It'll drive you insane. Watch it with someone. Watch it with a friend or friends. You got to have somebody, because once this information from this film is in your head, if it doesn't get out, if you're not able to speak to someone about it, your head will explode and you'll die. It's worth seeing, but see it with some friends or something. And yeah, there's that. Don't forget big afros, but space herpes too. Don't forget space herpes. It is an experience, that's for damn sure.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've seen it, you can say, "I've seen the Ice Pirates. Who wants to touch me?"
There's also a unicorn with a detachable horn, but that's another story for another day. So
Forgot all about that.
It's definitely. If you can find it and you're at all into movies that are just slightly left of center, I mean, this movie is
slightly way off from center, just fucking out there.
That is true. Like, if you're, people always go to The Room or Samurai Cop or some of those. This is exactly like those, but nothing like those, because it literally, there is a general story structure and there is a supposed quote unquote arc that happens throughout, but it is such a, this scene happens and that scene happens and then this scene happens, and that's really the best way to describe it. But it is so fun and weird. It's just, yeah, it's a good Friday night watch.
It is the weirdest, I use this term very lightly, quality movie I've ever seen, because there's money. It's not, the budget got cut considerably. There's money on the screen. There's stuff on there. I mean, some of the sets to a degree, but like the costumes and things, as out there as they are, there's money there. You know, it's not like cheap in the way of Samurai Cop or something like that. There's money, and it's a studio-ish film, but oh my god, it's just so out there and random as fuck. Jesus Christ, this movie is it's a mind fuck. Triv also has a review. She has a review on her channel that's probably much more in depth. So check out her channel. Check out her channel anyway, but check out her review of Ice Pirates if you're interested in it. I know that this was just kind of random as fuck, because that's what this movie is. There's no making sense of it. But yeah, Ice Pirates. If you're looking for something really out there and weird and different, check it out. Space herpes.
Space herpes.
Yeah.
Hey, Bloods, y'all want some kitties?